Show, and I am excited to talk to Sean Welsh about the Vet SOS podcast and the changes, meaning new series. You're going to continue to do this. You're like you're going to do more podcasts. That's
Oh,
crazy, right? You're just a pod. You love podcasting. It sounds like.
yeah, I'm trying to give Joe Rogan a run for his money here, but yeah. So we're going to keep the transition podcast the same. That's not changing, right? So we're going to organize all the or interview the organizations that are helping people transition. But now we're going to expand out. We're going to do an entrepreneurial spotlight, veteran entrepreneurial spotlight that looks at veterans and veteran spouses, and those who have created their own business and what they're doing with that, and get those tips and tricks that they learned along the way that we can pass on to the veteran community so that next group that wants to be an entrepreneur has this library of information that'll just help them avoid a lot of those pitfalls. And then, of course, the other one, which I'm excited about as well, is the educational spotlight, the Veteran Resource Educational Spotlight, which is going to take a look at the different veteran programs on campuses, as well as some of these organizations that focus on education, because entrepreneurship and education are two big tracks that people take when they transition out of the military. So we want to give them as much information as possible so they can make educated decisions.
Because I think that, there's a certain built person to be an entrepreneur,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
or a business owner, because guess what? You really put your life on the line in the military for 20 years. You've had in some sort of potential conflict, or you've been in some really working hard, long days, never sleeping. That's the entrepreneur life. Do you, after 20 years in the military, want to work a 100-hour day? That's the real truth, because when you start, you work 100 hours. It decreases the more success you have or where you want to go. But ultimately, depending on your transition story, you could go ahead with the right skill sets and education and get a very well-paying job, and you're still getting paid for your pension. So it really is it's not double dipping, but it really works out for someone in the military.
It does give you that security, right? So having that retirement, that pension, that is a bit of a security blanket that allows you to try a few extra things without the fear of all of a sudden becoming homeless or something like that. So it does allow you that freedom. And you're absolutely right. Every entrepreneur I've talked to, they talk about how hard it can be and that roller coaster ride that you may be on, depending on what the business actually is and how it fits into the economical cycle.
No, and every business goes through it, and every founder goes through it. And it depends on your addiction to entrepreneurship and your addiction to being able to make the money you want to make when you want to make it. And that's the problem, that if you're looking at what's the average, retiree from the military and transition, what age?
Roughly 40.
40. Okay. So that gives you still some, the best years ahead. And this is the other thing that's going to change for veterans is people are living a lot longer. The numbers came out, from COVID that really skewed how long older adults live. Right now, we're about to hit, 33%. In 5 years, baby boomers are going to be 30% of the United States population. So a third of the population is going to be baby boomers. I don't know how many baby boomers are veterans and how many of them are doing well versus not doing well. Another area to focus upon on is that area, because that's going to be more the Vietnam War, and that's going to be the others. And how did they do compared to transition stories now? That's something to look at. But what I'm saying is that you're gonna live another 60 years if you retire at 40. What are you going to do for those 60 years or more? Because technology and medical, and what we're talking about, we're becoming like futuristic Jetsons, right? Flying cars and everything. What do you think is going to happen in 60 years that could have people living to 150? So really, it's important to build. And the mistake some veterans make is they retire on their pension, and it's just like someone who retired at 62 or 63. They get bored. They and they don't have any real direction, right?
It definitely can happen. There's a lot of people I know that, over time, the military is a different style of life, right? So you go through a lot, you put your life on the line for your country. And, there's some people who, when they're done, they're done. They just want to relax and enjoy the rest of their lives. Other people take, that military structure they had and that discipline that they learned, and they pour it into something else, whether that's working for another company or starting their own thing. So that there's so many different options. It's amazing to see how people decide on different things.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing. So the education piece is going to be interesting because I mean, there's so many bills out there and certain things where you're going to get your education paid for after
Oh yeah.
retiring from the military, right? Are
Oh
there
yeah. But there's tons of avenues between, the GI Bill and then also the different veteran programs that are out there. And then you take a look at each school. Each school does it differently too. They have different things that they offer veterans on campus, and that's what we want to capture. We want to be able to show veterans what's out there for them, so that, and it's not just veterans, it's their families as well. If they pass their GI Bill on, their kids are using their GI Bill, so they get to use all the veteran resources as well, which is just an amazing benefit that they have on campus that the regular students not able to use.
What do you think is so now I think what's going to be so interesting when learning these transitions, what resources, how can you've been highlighting organizations on your show since you've been doing your podcast, how can we get to all the veterans that go ahead and transition so that they don't end up homeless, they don't end up addicted, they don't end up and really find those places because there are opportunities, but a lot of times because you guys have been taught to fend it for yourself and your community, you're not willing to ask for help.
That is a big problem, and we're seeing that isolationism is becoming a very, very big problem, especially in the veteran community. So it's getting out there, it's spreading the word, it's talking to veterans, it's trying to get them involved in something, whether it's a veteran organization that they're supporting or just something in their community. Giving them that sense of community, getting them back involved. It could be a church, it could just be the local chamber of commerce, it could be a Boy Scout group. I mean, it could be anything. But getting them out there, getting them involved, and making sure that they're not, trapped within themselves and stuck in that isolationism.
All right. And there's a GoFundMe going, and we're going to definitely have to put that in the transcripts of different podcasts. And that's why my recommendation that your call to action for every podcast is you're raising money to get this foundation started. And then you're going to see hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands veteran transition stories.
I'm so excited about this. I really am. The fact that we can capture every veteran and veteran spouse's transition story, what they went through, how they overcame struggles, and be able to build that library that others can learn from and benefit from and help them along in their transition. I think it's going to be a game changer. And I think it's going to help so many.
All right, Sean, thank you for your service and thank you for everyone of the veterans that have served the military. This is the thing we have to continue to honor our military because we wouldn't be the country where I can go ahead and come up and just have a life of just going on podcasts all day and get paid for it. That wouldn't happen in another country. So I appreciate it, Sean. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Neil.
All right, you're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be